Okay, it's footer time. Let's go and get this done here. Again, for whatever weird, bizarre reason, I'm going to put my footer at the bottom of my list of selectors there, my list of CSS rules. I'm just going to call this guy footer. And here we go with some properties. I'm going to throw on that margin right that we used, same margin right that we used for the header, which was 4%, right? Don't forget your semicolon there. Let's do a margin left, same margin left that we've been using, which has been 1%. And what else do we want to do here? You want to throw on a background color so we can see this guy? Background, and I'll do CCC. And, oh, you know the other thing we want to do? You know what? Actually, I'm going to sit tight just for a sec. I want to show you something here. So I'm going to leave my ID selector as it is just for a sec. And I'm going to go and I'm just going to do the same old copy paste trick here down in the body area for the footer. Right? Go ahead and save and refresh if you like inside your browser. And everything kind of falls apart and collapses and everything kind of goes to hell inside our layout. Right? Column 3's down here. That's our footer actually. I didn't change the text there. There we go. But we've lost our spacing there between our columns and everything's kind of fallen apart. Now, any guesses why? This is why, I was going to throw in something into this ID selector, but I thought, no, you know what? I'm going to ask you if you know what's up. Any ideas? Based on what you've seen in the previous chapter, in our previous exercises, is there a property that we've seen earlier that we haven't seen yet in this chapter? If you're thinking clear, you win $100 million. I don't have $100 million, but anyway, clear both. That was a lame joke. I'm really sorry. I'm going to go back and refresh. There we go. Okay, so now the footer, what we're doing is we're forcing the footer out of the normal flow and forcing him down onto the next available line, right? That's how that works. Okay, cool. Now, what I want to do now is I just noticed here that the footer is rubbing right up against the bottom of my layout, which is no good. I want that cushion of space that we've sort of established as a layout component, right? So there's a couple of different ways to pull this off. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little margin bottom onto my third column. That might not be the best way to do it, but it's just kind of down and dirty here. So margin bottom. What did I use earlier? I think I used 10 pixels. There we go, something like that. There we are. That looks pretty cool. You might want to throw on a height as well for the footer. Why don't we do that quick? Again, this could be a temporary height, or maybe you're going to wind up leaving this inside your layout. Something like that. Cool. Looking awesome, right? Now, I want to bounce a bunch of things off of you here. The number one question that I get asked is, how do I build a layout where the amount of content that I have inside the layout determines the height of the layout? In other words, I want the footer to move up and down on the page based on the amount of content that I have inside my layout. I get this all the time, at least a few times a week, right? Which is one of the reasons why I've finally broken down and started recording this tutorial. So what I'm going to do here is, remember the temporary height that you and I had put on our three main columns, column 1, 2, and 3, right? Well, instead of 500, I'm going to change this to 300 for all three. Something like this. Save it up. Remember, that's a temporary height, by the way. We're going to take that off when we actually throw real-world content into this, right? I'm going to hit refresh here inside my browser, and what happens is the height of the layout collapses slightly, and the footer goes with it. Let's say, for example, I have a page that has a lot of content, right? I'm going to crank this up to 1,000 pixels for all three of my ID selectors. Refresh my browser. Now all three columns extend in height, and there's the footer now pushed down to the bottom of the page. In other words, the location of my footer now is dynamic based on the height of my 3 columns. That's how that works. I hope that makes sense for you. So I think maybe what I'll do here is I'll just collapse this back down, maybe down to something a little bit more manageable, maybe 400 pixels here. I hope that's working for you, and I hope that's a biggie for you too, because again, I get asked this a lot. Of course, everything is still flexible, by the way. So the header and the footer are now scalable as well as the 3 layout columns. That's the entire purpose of this exercise, is to show you how this works here, building this liquefied layout. Notice too that the gap of space between the layout blocks, the columns there, is dynamic as well. It expands and collapses as well because we used a percentage value for that margin, right? Okay, I hope that's all good. All right. Now, the last thing I want to do here with you is I want to explain exactly how all of this works. And I think maybe what I'll do is I'll save this for the next exercise because we've been going here for a while. So in the final exercise inside this chapter, I'm going to explain exactly how all of this works.